Let's talk about interracial marriage. Now, forget an introduction. I'm gonna get straight into it. Why do it? Or why not? Before we go any further, I ain't got the answers, so don't come at me like Kanye. My fellow Africans, this very touchy subject is perhaps something that has lingered in your mind sometime in the past. Perhaps still is. I know it has been in mine for a while. So I took it upon myself to conduct some extensive research on the subject matter, YouTube videos, and surely as expected, I came to find that while you have those that are in complete support of it, you have those that completely denounce it. And then you have a third group that falls somewhere in between. So let's unpack this. Now on the supporting end, I've heard people say things like interracial marriage is great because, well, it's great seeing two diverse cultures merge to form a union essentially built on love and trust. And it seems the more exotic, the cooler. So like the husband would be from, Namibia, and the wife from Argentina, and the lovebirds happen to be living somewhere in the tuk-tuk villages in Indonesia. Some might also add that, well, it's precisely where mixed children come from. Yeah, for reals, if I were a mixed race child with a DNA from two different corners of the world, I'd walk up during science fairs and present myself as a species that comes around seldom. To mixed race children, you're welcome. But moving on, as mentioned earlier, in considering interracial marriage, or just marriage really, the first cause is often love, which, as we've learned from Stephen R. Covey, is really just a verb that is manifested through actions. Therefore, when I say I love you, I'm basically saying that you're someone that I show appreciation to, someone that I'm actively supporting and sacrificing for. And of course, actions carried out with a clearer vision are less susceptible to being compromised. What are you implying, Sano? Hey, don't shoot the messenger. Speaking of implications, what message do you think interracially married couples are giving out to the public? Is it their attempt at paving the way for open-mindedness amongst their stringent communities so as to break down cultural barriers? Or could they be saying that there wasn't a single person from their own beloved parents' people that fulfilled their criteria or was capable of filling that void in their lives? I'm just kidding. But I know my mom wasn't when she said that. Yeah, she was probably just tripping. But I myself have become a little cynical, having witnessed numerous episodes of mixed-race children being caught in the crossfire during divorce between their parents or conflicts between the families. And yes, I'm aware that conflicts happen in all marriages, interracial or not. But we all know how a lot of family members are quick to pick a side when the matter involves children or money, even when there is still hope for reconciliation between the married couples. But maybe I'm just assuming the worst. Maybe interracial marriage is the best thing since Salif Keita, but maybe it's not for everyone. Because see, I'm a third culture kid, meaning I grew up in a country other than where my parents are from. And you know why am I complaining about the time I've spent abroad? As a matter of fact, I wouldn't trade the exposure and experience for anything. Of course, I love my home country, but every time I go back during vacations with my subpar manikaka, I kind of get the vibe or the hint that I'll always be looked at as an outsider, a visitor. That, and I'm not even a mixed race child. So I wonder how those that are must feel. Like how much struggle would they have to undergo before they adapt to each of their parents' distinct cultures? And yeah, obviously this is more so the case for cultures that are less similar. So like it's one thing for a Senegalese to marry a Gambian, but it's a whole different thing for a Nigerian to marry a Malaysian. Shout out to homies Rashid and Atia. You know what? I should have asked this from the beginning. What does marriage mean to you? Voila. Because see, it's clear that marriage, apart from being a commitment to a partner, is an expression of loyalty and a good indication of a man and woman's priorities. Let's do a couple of case studies. Firstly, Barack Hussein Obama. Now, putting aside your personal views of him and his spicy foreign policy, we know that the man was able to speak to and for the black community during his time in office. Well, aside from being black, he showed signs of loyalty towards the black community, one of which was by way of him marrying a formidable black woman. I'm saying I don't think he would have received the same prestige or acceptance from African Americans had he walked out the White House with his white wife to address the non-white marginalized community. But let's not forget that Obama himself was a product of interracial marriage. So one could ask, did that have a role in positioning him as someone that was more appealing to the various spectrums? Let's do another one. Muhammad Yunus. a Bangladeshi banker, philanthropist, and Nobel Prize recipient who, at least at a certain point in time, was killing poverty in his country through his dope social finance initiative called Grameen Bank. Did you know that his wife was Russian? Would it therefore be legitimate to claim that he missed out on the absolutely loyal title to his people, despite his unfathomable contribution to his country, all because of who he chose to marry? Look, I know what you're thinking. Why are we even talking about this, Sano? Shouldn't everyone just marry who they want to? Ain't it what it is? Shouldn't we all just put our differences aside, or at the very least rightfully categorize people based on actions and intentions rather than race and religion? But hey, with all the potential wahalas that may come with it, wouldn't it be reasonable to doubt the chances of success, or at the very least raise an eyebrow towards the amount of sacrifices required? And yeah, I get it. Marriage is all about sacrifice, which according to the Oxford Dictionary is the act of giving up something of value for something that is of greater value or importance. So while it may be said that the preservation of culture is what is being given up here, to a certain extent, the question is, well, what is it that is of greater value in this case? Love? Happiness? The creating of a bond between two ends of the world through tying knots and using the ropes to help swing across racial barriers? That's one hell of a point. Because think for a moment about how the world would look like today if no one married outside of their race. I don't know what that world would look like, yo. Yo, if we're being honest, I can't think of a better way to solidify kinship with another community than to marry from it. And we know that love isn't always the main factor in marriage decisions, especially for those of us that come from more traditional backgrounds. But I guess the mystery that I'm trying to solve is, can someone that sympathizes or even empathizes with your people's struggle ever be equated to someone that identifies with it? Honestly, I don't know. And yeah, I've been trying to figure this out for myself. Because maybe I've already allowed myself to fall in love with the perfect outsider. And I want to know if I should instead save my feelings for the day when I find a compatible compatriot. But in the meantime, my dear Nabi brothers and sisters, here's perhaps some good advice that might help you and I in considering Mrs. or Mr. Right. Weigh the pros and cons. Think of the short and long-term impact of your marriage on your spouse, the impact on your kids. Yes, you love these persons to death and you do anything to promote their well-being. But unless you and your spouse are mentally ready and emotionally and financially capable of handling the backlash that you're bound to receive back home, then maybe it's best you play it safe. And like I said, I don't have the answers to these questions for myself. But until the day comes when I'm feeling in luck and decide to get down on one knee, I'd like to hear your interesting thoughts on the matter. Until then, always remember, Adibeng.